everyone. Today we're talking about a topic that's getting a lot of buzz in the world of corporate training: gamification. Gamification is the process of applying game-like elements and mechanics, such as points, badges, and leaderboards, to non-game contexts like corporate training in order to drive engagement, enhance motivation, and encourage desired behaviors. This sounds like it would be a good thing. I mean, who wouldn't want to liven up that latest course on preventing HIPAA breaches? But, much like a cat trying to assemble an IKEA dresser, corporate instructional designers trying to implement gamification often end up with a confusing, chaotic mess, and an inexplicable surplus of tiny screws. Gamification was supposed to be the superhero of corporate training, swooping in to save us all from dull, uninspired e-learning courses. The idea took off in the late 2000s and early 2010s. Instructional designers were supposed to be whisking us away to a magical world where employees are fully engaged and productivity soars. Gamification was going to be the panacea for courses like Excel Basics, the one that uses the PowerPoint slides that your manager still thinks are cutting edge. Corporate trainers, bless their hearts, latched on to this idea of gamification. But the problem is that instead of embracing the entire concept, which has, at its core, things like creativity, exploration, ambiguity, and surprise, they boiled it down to its most basic elements: points, badges, and leaderboards, known as PBL. The first problem with this, of course, is the acronym, which sounds less like something associated with e-learning and more like a sandwich that you'd find in a particularly unenthusiastic school cafeteria. Today's special is PBL, processed bologna and lettuce. Enjoy your mandatory training and your soggy sandwich, folks. But, bad branding aside, PBL by itself was never going to work in a corporate environment. Layering points, badges, and leaderboards on poorly developed e-learning is like throwing glitter on a textbook and calling it a party. And most, if not all, corporate e-learning really doesn't need gamification. Your employees are going to complete the training because you're paying them to do it. Let's not make it more complicated than it has to be. Think of any game you've ever played and it's had elements that allowed you to stay engaged for hours. Maybe you were immersed in a rich, vibrant world. Maybe it required strategy and decision-making, exploration and discovery, collaboration and social interaction, challenge and mastery. Now, do we really need to incorporate all of that into our latest e-learning course on fire safety and fire extinguisher types? Or hand hygiene? No, of course not. Which is why instructional designers take the shortcut of just layering on PBL. But let's face it, no amount of points and badges is going to make hand hygiene engaging. In fact, if you're the kind of person that would get off on the idea of being awarded points for that course, you probably have a trophy case at home filled with sanitizer bottles. Although that would make for an interesting line in your Tinder bio. But it gets worse. Critics warned that gamification, as it was being interpreted by corporate trainers, was more about coercion than empowerment. Jeff Watson, who was a game designer, writer, and educator at the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts, said, "Gamification in corporate training is about the opposite: the known, the badgeable, the quantifiable. It's about checking in, being tracked, and becoming more regimented. Gamification, as it is currently being implemented, is a surveillance and discipline system." Wow. Think of that. Your workplace training just went from a game of Mario Kart to a game of 1984. Next up, mandatory fun sessions where you're scored on your enthusiasm for the company's new paperclip policy. It's like they took the fun parts of a game, stripped them away, and left you with a dystopian nightmare where you're constantly being watched, because nothing says productive workplace like feeling that you're in the corporate version of the Hunger Games. So, what can we do? First, we need to recognize which courses can appropriately be gamified and which we just need to let the employees get on with. Disaster preparedness might be a course that could use some strategy and decision-making, but I'm pretty sure that no one needs a leaderboard for filing expense reports. Nice try, Steve, but your meticulous attention to detail only got you third place. Better luck next quarter. Next, If we're going to incorporate game elements into our training, we need to do it right. If all you have are points, badges, and leaderboards, it's a good bet that what you're really interested in is a shiny way of checking up on who didn't complete their training. So, in conclusion, most e-learning is probably better off without gamification, especially if we're just adding the pretext of it, which is all points, badges, and leaderboards really are. But if we do want to put the game back in gamification, we need to focus on meaningful engagement. Try interactive simulations, real-world problem-solving, group interaction, and anything that fosters creativity and exploration. Remember, the goal is to create impactful and lasting learning experiences that employees actually enjoy. Yes, it's time-consuming to create this type of training, and yes, it requires sustained consecutive thought from instructional designers on what it means to actually play a game. But if we do it right, then maybe, just maybe, our employees will become genuinely invested in their training, and the next time we bring up onboarding, they won't start planning an escape route or Googling how to fake your own death just to avoid another session. Think of the possibilities. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.